Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit. Beautiful, beautiful hummingbirds. Oh my gosh, I just noticed it's 4:44 as we're recording this, which is so funny because we were supposed to record at 3:45 and then Claire and I talked for a whole hour, but it was all meant to be because now we're recording at 4:44 and that just feels right. So, I wanted to start off this Sitting with Spirit, which if you're new to the podcast, welcome. This is the part of the podcast where I sit with our angels and guides, loved ones in spirit, and give the messages for the collective. Take what resonates, leave the rest. And in that vein, always run every spiritual message through the barometer of your own heart space. Like Claire and I were just talking about the importance of that before we were recording, where it's like some messages in a reading might not fully land with you. Maybe they'll make more sense as time goes on, but sit with what your heart really feels like it needs to hear and leave the rest. Don't let spiritual messages be a sign of anxiety or like something that induces anxiety to wonder how it applies to you. If it doesn't immediately resonate, it's not for you. And that's totally fine, especially in a format that's meant for a lot of people. And don't try to make things fit. That's very important too. It's like sometimes in this spiritual work, we want to make things fit. We want things to be just this perfect way. And sometimes if they don't fit, that means it's not for you. And that's okay. Not every message is for you. And maybe your angels and guides have a bigger reason for that. Like they want you to lean on your own authority, your own heart, and your own trust. There's so many ways that that could have a perfect design for you. So, with everything, let's lean into trust. Even if a message is like, oh my God, my aunt needs to hear this, send it to them. It's like, how can we be a little more fluid with how we give and receive information and less attached to things that don't fully resonate? If they don't, then it's not for you here and now. And maybe when you listen to this again, or maybe this episode finds you at a different point in life, not even just this episode, but any spiritual message, it will make sense then. So don't worry, just run everything through your heart. Use every message as a exercise in spiritual discernment, which is so important. Because this leads me to the next point that we are in this moment energetically with so much Piscean energy. And there is this like higher spiritual connection. There is this ability for spiritual growths and downloads and intuition. And something that's so important to remember is that spirituality exists from the inside out, not the other way around. And so it truly takes the deep spiritual work of loving ourselves, knowing ourselves, sitting in radical authenticity and radical truth that is very much rooted in the earth element to have healthy embodiment of the spiritual, esoteric, ineffable realms of the water element. And I just feel like something that's been coming up so much is that it's really important to be here, be grounded, remember that we came to be on earth for a reason. And in this time with all this Piscean energy, where it feels like we want to ascend and escape, to remember that we came here for a reason and that we need to be of service and that spiritual messages are like the most humble, beautiful gift. But we can't forget that we came here for human experiences and everything is about duality. So, if all of this Pisces energy is like pulling you to want to escape or numb or avoid or be in a fantasy, how can you come back to your body, to the truth, to sitting with your emotions? That just feels really important. Like the Pisces Virgo polarity is coming up a lot right now with the North Node in Pisces. We can't have healthy embodiment of Piscean energy if we don't have healthy embodiment of Virgo energy first, which is mind and body healing, structures, boundaries, clear strategies for how we want to move forward. Then we can transcend into the spiritual, the metaphysical, the subconscious, and the dream world. And in that vein, with this Piscean energy that we're navigating, I had a really beautiful session with a client, and I was giving her this message that I feel in the collective for so many people too, which is that right now, the path forward feels really foggy and really uncertain. It's like we have these feelings of what we want to move forward with. We might have dreams. We might have a little bit of momentum for one step or another. But overall, there's this sense of a lot of question marks, a lot of fog, and the details aren't coming in super crisp. And this client said something that was so beautiful. She said, I just need to match my angels in the what happens next. So it's instead of being like, okay, I need my game plan and my 5-year plan and to know every single thing and the how and the why and the when and the what, just match your angels in the what happens next. I couldn't say that any better. Like, okay, I feel like it's time for new energetic strategies. I want to try something a little new. This is my impulse. Okay, I'm going to sit with my inner child in a way that I never have before and journal what she wants me to know. Okay, then what happens next? And the next step is always revealed. The next breadcrumb is always revealed. We're leaning into what happens next and how can I co create with them in this magical space. And this leads me to this really interesting download that I got as I was showering. And then I forgot to write it down. And then I forgot it. And then I had to sit in my meditation chair to remember it again. I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so grateful that I remembered it again. But it was this message of the universe. And I want to put a little disclaimer on this because I think there's no oversimplifying the universe. And sometimes when we try to distill energetic laws with the universe into clean, neat boxes, it's like sanitizing out some of the chaos that the universe has. So I don't think there's any one way to like distill it down. But this is just an idea to think about and a prompt to approach with playful curiosity, as with everything. So I got this message basically like in the form of a lot of painful memories in my life where it's like those painful memories have led to my biggest sort of up level and expansion and growth and power. But the feeling I got was like, but why does it have to be that way? Why can't I learn from the love, the joy, and the expansion in the same way as the pain, the loss, the grief, and the uncertainty? And basically, the feeling I got was because the universe is a mirror and I'm teaching it energetically that that's the only way I learn because I'm focusing on it, I'm looking for it, I'm dwelling on it. So then I like went a little deeper and I was like, okay, well, why is that? And basically, I got the feeling like, well, a part of our brain is literally designed to only notice that from a survival mode place. It's like the kind of principle of when you get a million nice comments on something, which has never happened to me, a million. Wow, calm down. But, let's say for an example, you get a million nice comments on something and three mean ones. Our brain will automatically focus on the three mean ones. We will replay it. We'll only think about it. We'll cry about it instead of being super lit up about the hypothetical million nice ones. And that's just the way we're designed from a biological perspective of needing community to survive and survival of the fittest. And I think that the next evolution of consciousness involves us inverting the way we're teaching the universe to treat us. So, my little asterisk with this is that this is a super distilled energetic principle when in reality, there's a difference between individual manifestation and group manifestation. And we can't control how the universe treats us on a collective level because that's a group manifestation. So that's like people who are in these war torn countries. It's like, I'm not telling them to just focus on the good, like that's a group manifestation. And that's the reason that this can't fully apply to everything. But to a certain level, on the individual level, we can implement this. And where are we trained to look for lack? Where are we trained to look for what's disappointing us, for what's missing, for what isn't working? Because the universe is mirroring that right back to us in a way that only makes us learn from that. It's like, okay, if their attention is going to be so streamlined on the lack, then I guess I'll use the lack to teach them their lessons. Instead, how can we lean into what's feeling good right now? What are you grateful for? What is aligned? And at first, we might have to fake it till we make it because literally on the brain level, that doesn't feel right to us. It's like, no, but how can I achieve more? How can I strive for more? How can I compare myself to this image of success and get more, more, more? And the universe is like, oh, okay, well, okay, I guess we are still focusing on what we don't have and more, more, more. Okay, I'll always keep you wanting more because I'm just a mirror. So basically, we're in this era now where the evolution of consciousness involves expansion through love, focusing on love. And in a similar way, like It brings me to this memory of when I was in this acting class, and one of our exercises was standing in the mirror and saying, I am beautiful, so that we could walk into auditions with confidence. And when I first did that exercise, I couldn't even say it. I was sobbing. I was like so insecure. I never thought I was beautiful. I was severely bullied. I was asked out as a joke. I was called the ugliest girl in our school when I was young. I had such awful things. I was a very late bloomer, and it did a number on me. And it literally didn't feel authentic to call myself beautiful in the mirror. And now I'm like, I love myself. I am beautiful. Like, it's completely healed. And so I think it'll be a similar energetic principle to this idea, where at first it's like, this feels a little difficult. Like, here's the thing, it doesn't feel safe to our nervous system to focus on what's going right. It feels like, but if I focus on what's going right, like, what if I don't survive? What if I don't take care of myself? And it's similar to the inner villain voice, where it's like, don't worry, I hear you and I've got you. And I'm a version of self that can handle both. This is a next level of self trust, allowing yourself to shift focus onto what is working, what is lighting you up, and allowing that to be the roadmap that leads you into matching the what happens next, as that beautiful client said. So I was, again, so distressed when I thought I lost that download, because while I was showering, I was like, oh my God, this changes everything. So before I go on, is there anything you want to say, Claire?
I love that so much. And it's so true. We have a negativity bias for survival. It's if there's a basket full of 100 kittens and a cobra, it is important to notice the cobra, and you do need to be focused on that cobra. But we've translated that into many aspects of our life that don't involve snakes or actual danger. It's more of a concept of danger or a concept of fear that could hurt us. And yeah, I mean, what a powerful thing. I think we often talk about, oh, hard things can help us grow and expand. And I think that's a beautiful silver lining of hard things. And what a powerful shift to think that we can also focus on, obviously, when we think about it, the love we've received has, of course, made us better, has, of course, like pushed us to be an even better version of ourselves. So, yeah, I'm absolutely loving that and going to focus on that this week and try and notice in small ways how I can look to those things to help me grow and expand into my best self.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love the metaphor of the kittens and the cobra. It's so true. And it really breaks it down in that way. So, yeah, I think we are constantly pushing ourselves to get out of our comfort zone, which is a good thing. But how can we do that with things that we love? And I think that the answer is bravery, like taking things to the next level. And that actually ties in with when I tuned into our angels. One of the very first thing that came up was that we are in a moment where I start to get these kind of anxious butterfly feelings in our solar plexus chakra, where it's like we're trying new energetic strategies in a way that scare us a little bit. It's like overcoming these little dysregulating, fearful twitters of butterflies in our stomach and just being like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to publish this essay. I'm going to put it out online. Or, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to just say yes to this blind date. It's like doing things that we would have never done before that scare us a little, that feel a little uncomfortable. And that to me feels like the way we up level through love, because that is like leaning into trust, leaning into, okay, meet me with what comes next, and saying yes to giving momentum to our angels. And so, rewinding, the very first thing that came through from our angels was throat chakra expansion. And it felt like almost constriction led to expansion. And it's noticing what we feel so uncomfortable to talk about or acknowledge, because throat chakra isn't just about expressing ourselves to others, although that is a big part of it. It's also about lying to ourselves or radically honest with ourselves. So, where do we feel the constriction and the resistance and the ickiness? And then how can we expand past that in a braver way? And like the truth will set you free, as they say. That led me to this feeling of like warmth and magic and expansion. I feel like we're in this ripe moment for a lot of beauty and magic and miracles and all of these good things. And it's leading us to like these new energetic strategies where it's like, okay, I feel a little stale in some area. I know what I love. I know what excites me. What would scare me a little bit? Because that thing, whether it's like taking an improv class or doing karaoke. It's like that thing that scares you a little bit is what will help you grow, will help you build trust with yourself, help you break old barriers of thinking and comfort zones. And it almost feels like this adrenaline rush that propels you into the next chapter. So, things that like give us a little bit of adrenaline rush, not to say like an adrenaline junkie, but things that scare us a little bit feels in alignment with the energy right now, like being brave. And then I got the message from your angels that felt like tough love, but also made me laugh. And it was like, enough talking about it, do it. And that's like the other part of this too is like, you've been talking about it, you've been planning, you've been getting opinions. It's like, just do it. And that's part of the energy of pushing past the fear a little bit, even though it feels scary. And then they showed me an image of this like big ship sailing through scary dark waters at night. And that's sometimes how the energy feels, where it's like there is nothing scarier to me than the ocean at night. But the world is what, 80% ocean or something? We have to be able to traverse the ocean at night. It's so scary. And so the ship is like our toolbox, it's our preparation. We've loaded it with cargo, we've hoisted the sails. Let the sails be our intentions, let the sails be our soul growth, let the sails be what the heart is asking for. The wind is spirit pushing it forward. We can't control that. We can only control the ship, but the ship is equipping us to glide over the dark waters. So we might be in a moment where it feels like we're navigating scary or unknown territory, but basically, this is a long winded way of your angels saying you're prepared. Stay in connection with what's in your control, which is the cargo, the sails, maintaining the ship, taking care of the ship. The wind and the water is not in your control. That being said, I want to get into the mediumship now. So, I did have a gentleman in spirit coming in, and immediately he was showing me pain in his stomach. So, I felt like there was something going on in his stomach. He felt in his 40s or 50s to me. He was brunette. I saw cars as being really important to him. And then I saw two flags crossed, like racing or NASCAR, motocross, like something about like fast cars, racing, something like that. I did feel like this would be somebody's uncle. And then I also got this feeling like for the last part of his life, he would have been either unresponsive or in a coma. He showed me drinking and chewing tobacco and not really taking the best care of his body. And he showed me that he was with a sister in spirit or someone that felt like a sister who would have been younger than him. He was also with a dog that had really long, like kind of droopy ears. And he was bringing me to the South. So I feel like he would have been in like the Southern United States. And there were two parts to his message. One is he was showing me that he was not a good listener. And I feel like he would have even had trouble hearing. Like he felt deaf to me and like you would have had to shout at him. And that's part of the message is like, I was never a good listener. And I wish I would have listened a little bit more, been a little bit more open. That was like a side message. But the main message from him was that even spirits who you think would be the least likely people on the other side to support you and love you and take sending you signs seriously are taking it seriously, are supporting you, are hearing you. Because he gives me this feeling of like my like loved ones in spirit would be like, oh, uncle blah 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 would never send us signs or be into this stuff or care. He's like, no, 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 no. Like from this consciousness on the other side, I see it differently. So there's a message here when it comes to signs from your loved ones, not to over identify with the stories of who they were when they were here, even if they were religious, even if they were like, I don't believe in all of this. Our perspective changes when we're on the other side. And even the most like burly, gruff, unresponsive, bad listener ancestor on the other side will still try to support you, show you that you're supported, and facilitate healing. And I just found that message to be very simple and very sweet.
Yeah, I love that. I think it shows the difference between our human experience and the energy that we become or connect back to when we're in spirit. It's like there's no petty energy in spirit, or at least it seems that way. It's all love and it's more of a deeper knowing. So where people maybe fell short in life or weren't able to show up in the way that they maybe best could, that is an awareness, it seems, on the other side.
Exactly. And that's what's so funny too. It's like today in a mediumship reading right before we connected, she had these like precious grandparents on the other side that she really wanted to hear from. And I was like, okay, great. Let me try to reach them. And who came through but her like gruff grandpa that was really difficult when he was here and had problems with his wife and his daughter and was mean to his son and had all these problems. And it's like sometimes that's what happens because they're the ones that have the most pressing message to get through. Whereas your sweet grandma is like, go ahead, Grandpa Bill. Like, you go first because she knows I love her. We left on good terms. She knows my signs to her. I visited her in a dream. It's not as urgent for me to get through this information as it is for you. And so sometimes in the spirit world, they'll literally like step aside or like ramp up to get somebody to you that is like the least expected person. I had a really funny client who was like, why is he here? When like somebody came through, she's like, what the heck is he doing here? But he had a really important message about like divorce and separation and how he wished he was a better husband that tied into what she was going through. So sometimes there's a lot of surprises, but nothing that the spirit world does is arbitrary. They're coming up for a reason. Usually their struggles or themes or cycle breaking have something to do with what you're navigating in some way. So always look for the parallels in that because the spirit world is so intelligent. It seems silly and lighthearted when I break things down, but it's not. They are so intelligent, and the layers of how their information is so perfect in the way it connects with us in this current moment, exactly what we need to hear, and how the evidence comes through is not arbitrary. And so when things come through and it surprises you, let yourself sit with that in a while. Like, why would this grandpa come up? And how is that helpful for me today? And it might just be, like I said, that your other relatives know they're on good terms with you and that there's nothing that so desperately needs to come through. But it might also be other reasons too. And just knowing that there's always a reason for the way things unravel when it comes to the spirit world.
Yeah, and kind of goes back to that thing of like meeting it in that next moment. It's this is what needs to come through and just meeting it in that moment and allowing it to show you what needs to happen or what you need to hear. I also just really loved what you said about the ship and preparing. And it's just what popped into my head was like, there's no point of a ship unless it goes onto the water. You've built the ship and you stocked that ship and you're in the harbor, and now, like, the point of the ship is to sail onto the waters, and so you've done the preparation. Now you're ready to set sail knowing that the voyage itself will be so beneficial even if it doesn't get you to where you think it's sending you. It's like, it's so great to prepare, and then it's so great to take that leap even when it's scary because we benefit so much from the doing, even though that's the scary part.
Yeah, voyages take bravery, period. I just love what you just said. It's so true. Like, what is the point of having a crew, equipping things, spending all the money on the voyage? You will have to go over dark water. You will have to travel at night. You will have to traverse thick fogs and crazy waves. But what's the alternative? Staying tied at your dock forever? Bravery is required of anything worthwhile. And so I think that that's just so beautiful. And when it comes to meeting them in that next moment, when it comes to mediumship, that's like a secret hack to becoming a well developed medium. It's like not letting your mind be like, what's the point of this? And what's the whole story? And why are they showing me this? It's like literally following the power is a roadmap for living authentically as well and living in flow with spirit as well, where it's like, the power, which is a shorthand for basically the spirit world that co creates with us, like we call it sitting in the power in the spiritualist community. And when you're a medium, it's like, okay, I'm flowing over here. This spirit is telling me things. Oh, the power's moving over here and a grandma's stepping in. But then your brain is like, wait. I should be with the grandpa and I should still be saying, but it's like, no. The power's coming in. It's taking you over here. You have to follow the power in the present moment. Then maybe you'll go back. You just have to follow where you're being led and be in flow that way. And I think that's the mediumship spirit world version of matching them in the what happens next. And that's really all we can do. Matching them in the what happens next. Like, we've prepared the ships, we've hoisted the sails, we have the cargo. Embark and match them in the what happens next. We're ready.
Yes, exactly. I'm feeling that so deeply too. I've got many things that I want to do, It's like, "Okay, well, go do it.
Yeah.
It's time to do it."
Exact going back to that tough love message of like, "Enough talking about it, just do it."
Exactly, yeah.
I love that. I feel that too. There have been so many things, and to our credit, we're kind of in the part of the year as of recording that is more about the internal yin, restful, meditative energy. But we just passed through February 1st, February 2nd, where it's like, okay, we're halfway to the spring equinox and we're starting to get a little momentum and we're starting to get a little bit more fire, and the days are going to start to get a little longer and things are going to come into bloom again soon. And things are starting to pick up a little bit now.
Yeah, exactly, I feel it. I know it's only February, but here in LA, it feels like spring has sprung. It's like all these trees are in bloom, and maybe it's just my internal feeling, but I'm feeling that energy of, "Okay, let's get after it."
Yeah, I feel that too. And I feel like because I rested so hard and create spaciousness, I can, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, that's such a good lesson.
I also just want to point out really quickly that as of time of recording, Jupiter just went direct again in Gemini. And Jupiter is like luck and expansion and writing and speaking and teaching. And this is like a social planet. So we're not going to feel it so on the individual level. But if you're somebody with heavy Gemini energy, you'll feel it. But also, if you're somebody with heavy influence in a more public way, because it's a social planet, if your work impacts large groups of people, you might feel it a little bit more too. And today I felt it so strongly. I was like, I want to write and I have so many things to share and I have so many downloads coming in. And like when I wasn't in that space, I was so scared that I'd never be in that space again. Like, not really to a level because I have faith and I observe the patterns, but I noticed and witnessed those fears coming up in me, like trying to force the expansion, trying to force what's next, trying to force the creative flow. But just being in rest and recuperation allowed me to get to a place where I could facilitate that flow again. And like feeling the tap turn back on today was really exciting for me.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. It's hard in those moments where you don't feel it flowing and you feel like I've lost it forever, but trusting in those cycles. It's like even going back to the ocean analogy. It's so funny how like during the day I love the ocean and then at night I'm like nightmare. And that's an example of like the ocean is not one or the other. The ocean is existing and then I'm having this experience of it feeling like open and exciting and then terrifying. And we are constantly in that like ebb and flow of life as it shifts and then comes back around. And so, the ocean isn't always scary. And so, if you're in a moment where you're in that fear stuff with yourself or not in a flow state, it's like, okay, that's just like a rest state then.
And that connects back to that Pisces energy that we were talking about in the beginning, where it's like sometimes that spiritual connection, Pisces, which is represented by the ocean, is in flow and is light filled and does feel really good. But then it's not always our best interest to be floating in those spaces. Like when the waters are dark and it's nighttime, it's like, okay, that's where the duality exists. Not everything is for us always. And we have to be okay with the duality. And I just want to say really quickly before we end that thinking of the beach and the ocean at night reminds me of that one birthday party we had of yours at the beach, and that guy was naked in the ocean. He like appeared out of nowhere and was naked walking through the waves. And we were so taken aback. And we kept trying to like move the party away. And he kept floating in the water, like closer to us. And I was like, okay, this is why you can't be at the beach at night.
Yes, he was trying to be seen. It was very weird and bizarre, but also hilarious. Yeah, the naked man.
He was like slowly marching through the waves as if he was like on a Tyra Banks runway. I was like, what are you doing, sir?
It takes that second too. You're like, oh, there's that guy. Wait a minute. Is that a fully naked man? Yes, it is.
I went from being like, "What an inspiration." No, he's naked. Okay, I actually don't think he's an inspiration anymore. I'm actually scared of him.
Yeah, so if you're at Santa Monica Beach at night, beware. There's a guy who takes his clothes off and exposes himself. There may be many, but look out.
Ain't that just the way? So, anyway, I love you all so much. We'll end it with something funny, but I hope these messages were helpful for you guys. I think that this February listener questions episode is full of so much information. It might have to be one of those episodes that you listen to a couple times, but I know that whatever sticks out to you is what you're meant to hear. So, let's just leave it with that. I hope that you guys have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week.